message that I actually came across in one of the chapters in there. And the base point behind it was simply this: what's your thoughts, they become words. What's your words, they become actions. What's your actions, they become habits. What's your habits, they become character. And what's your character, for it becomes your destiny. Hey everyone, welcome to the RLT podcast, where we share some real life tools, tips, and tricks to help you not only discover, but also reach your ultimate goals. Alright, welcome everyone back to the second episode of the RLT podcast. My name is Mono.
My name is Leon. Welcome back everyone. We're very excited to have you here. I hope you listened to our intro in the last episode. It was a very short episode. We plan on giving you some healthy information today. Manu.
Absolutely. So yeah, the main topic of today, summarized, is input equals output. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? I'll tell you the whole story, and it really all started with a specific book that I've recently read, and it was specifically Zig Ziglar, a book called Born to Win, and there was a very profound message that I actually came across in one of the chapters in there. And the base point behind it was simply this: what's your thoughts, they become words. What's your words, they become actions. What's your actions, they become habits. What's your habits, they become character. And what's your character, for it becomes your destiny. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but really what it comes down to is the thought process behind it. And we're going to actually strip that entire section down today and tell you just how much of an impact that had on my life, as well as on Leon's life, in terms of just input equals output. You know, that whatever you put into your mind is what you're going to get out at the end of the day. So it's going to be some really interesting topics today.
Yeah, so I mean, I still get goosebumps hearing that. Well, it's quite a long quote, so it's more of a paragraph, but it really holds true, and it has a lot of value to it, because if you think about it, it is really about you are what you eat. So you know, what you put in is what you're going to put out. And if you put toxic stuff in, you're going to put toxic stuff out. If you're going to put good stuff in, you're going to produce good. And we're going to break that up into a couple of conceptualized ideas today and practical examples to explain and to kind of illustrate why that you know, saying exists. The saying's been attributed to various different people, ranging from you know, Buddha all the way down to finding it in Zig Ziglar's books. So it's obviously been proven. It's been testament to a lot of people's success, and a lot of people that's acquired and worked for success have lived by this rule and died by this rule. And basically it's something that needs to be broken up into smaller bits and bites and pieces to make it a little bit more tangible, make it more understandable, and make it relevant today. And myself and Manu, you know, we've actually spent a lot of time talking about this topic, and we've realized, you know, we've actually for so many years, and obviously living in a country such as Southern Africa, and being around such a lot of negativity, that you really do find yourself always and constantly in the wrong mind space. And if you don't try and control that, you really stand to start putting out that negativity out into the world. And if you really want to be you know, remembered one day, or you want to leave something behind, or some sort of legacy, you don't want to be remembered for the person that was negative all the time. You want to be remembered for some good that you put back into the life, or into the world, and you change some lives, and you attempted to make something good out of whatever situation you were in.
You're so right. I think in saying that, actually, you know, you've summarized it in such a great way, Leon. Really, that's what struck me as so profound of this, just reading this in that chapter of the book, was purely that idea of, you know, we've got so many things coming into our minds on a daily basis that we don't really understand or realize what an impact that has on your life and on the person that you become, right? So a very simple example of that is just watch whatever you consume, watch whatever information you read. I mean, we're living in this day and age, once again, that's, you know, we've got access to Facebook. We've got access to Twitter, to Instagram. So we're watching so much content on a daily basis, shows on Netflix, YouTube videos. I mean, that is the new norm. And at the end of the day, whatever you consume, you'll start adapting that or thinking about that. And the craziest part of this, if we just strip down this entire snippet out of the book, what's your thoughts? They become words, right? And that doesn't sound like a major impact, like it's going to change your life, right? If I think about something, I want you to actually think about the fact that have you ever been so upset with something that someone said at work or that someone did at work? Once again, I'll mention that Leon and myself, we're no different from you or anyone else. We're literally just average Joes. We haven't made $1 million. We're not rich. We don't have multi-million-dollar companies that we've started or startups even. We're literally just your everyday Joe. So we both work day jobs and we get upset by so many things that go on in our everyday lives. And we keep thinking about that. We keep pondering on that. And at the end of the day, if you take that to a certain degree and you bottle it up, what happens is you start talking about it. You start voicing your opinion. You start telling other people about what a crappy day you had. And you start telling your spouse or your better half or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You come home, you get so upset. So those thoughts turn into words. And it just has such a major impact on your life as well.
Yeah, man. Really, I mean, thoughts are absolutely what we are made up of. We are pretty much just an ensemblance of our thoughts. I mean, if you think about it, let's say, for example, you come to work one day, someone uttered something untowards, maybe they said you look a bit tired today. So you start growing this little grudge inside of you. You start thinking about that starts boiling. And, you sit behind your desk, you're quiet, and you have your coffee, and you start thinking, what am I doing wrong? And what do I look like? You go to the bathroom, you have a look at your face. What did they see? Did I slump into work? Did I take the wrong approach? Did I not greet someone correctly, etc.? And you start doing two things. You foster negativity and hate towards that person, as well as you start actually believing that there's truthfully something wrong. And that eventually becomes vocal. I mean, there's only so much thought that you can keep in your mind, and then your mind wants to get rid of that thought, and the best way to do it is through the mouth. So you start speaking to your mates at work, and you start speaking to your wife at home through WhatsApp or whatever. And, this guy did this, and he said this, and it starts a toxic little circle. And soon enough, that person might have been, for example, genuinely concerned about your health or what you, if something was wrong or if something was up in your life at that time, but you start creating this little, negative circle and this negative reaction towards that person, not only from yourself, but now trying to rope other people into this negativity. So it's really about, you need to start, if you can control your thoughts, you're halfway there. I mean, that is literally from the quote we started off in this podcast. That is pretty much the beginning of everything. Everything starts with thoughts. So if you can control that, or at least try and retrain your mind to accept good thoughts and kind of get rid of the rest, or just shrug it off. So if something negative comes into your mind, bite on it, don't chew on it. So just give it that small amount of time. Okay, notice it, and then shrug it off. It's not going to serve you any good. It's not going to help your day. It's not going to make you more money. It's not going to make you successful. It's only going to bring you down. And by bringing you down, you're going to hold the person responsible for the bad thoughts accountable. And you'll probably take them down in flames with you.
Yeah, so I mean, come to think of it, there was actually another video that I saw the other day. I can't remember who it was. It might have been an episode or an interview that Tom Billieu, I've been following him like crazy lately, but he had an interview with someone, and they said something very, very interesting. They said that your thoughts carry a certain amount of weight in your life, right? So I think it was, and I'm going to paraphrase here, guys, so please don't quote me on this. If I can find it, I'll try and add it to the show notes as well. but your thoughts carry a certain amount of weight in your life, and I think they attributed it to about 30% of weight that it carries, just the thoughts that you have inside your mind, the negativity or positivity as well. But once you start speaking your mind, once you start speaking that out into the world, it carries a much larger weight. I think it goes up to something like 70% percentage wise in terms of you taking action on your words then, right? So, and that brings us into the next section of it. But just before we go into that, it's something to just think about and something to ponder on. If you get upset, right, it's okay. We all get upset. We're all human beings. We all get negative sometimes. We all wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It happens to me more than I'd like to even admit. It's difficult to stay positive in these times, but at the same time, if you speak that negativity out into the world, and it sounds very philosophical when I put it like that, but really what that means is you're influencing the people around you to being negative as well, and what's going to happen is their thoughts are going to turn into words as well, and that all that negativity will in turn then turn into actions as well. So think about the shows that you watch on Netflix. Even if it's just negative, it sounds weird just thinking about what am I watching on Netflix, what am I but rather let's use the example of saying, what are you scrolling through on Facebook? If you're scrolling through political stuff, I mean, I'm not a big fan at all of watching or following politics purely because I live in South Africa. So for that main reason, there's so much stuff going on there. And that's going to be a topic on its own in a couple of upcoming shows that we'll have, is that amount of negativity that can ruin your life in just scrolling through your phone on a daily basis or looking into your phone. But really what it comes down to is those words turn into actions, right? And when you think about those, when you think about it in that sense, it's absolutely so crucial to understand that it all started with a single thought, right? A single thought. You might not feel like much to you as a person, but at the end of the day, if you turn that into words, those things become actions. So think about your daily job, as we just discussed earlier, right? So your daily job, you walk in there, the example that Leon gave, you're upset by something that someone said, right? Are you feeling off? You look down, you look pale, are you sick? Those things affect you negatively, and you start expressing that negativity to other people, right? And one day, if that bottles up too much, right, it might become an action that you take, right? Maybe one day you just lash out at your boss for no apparent reason, or you throw something across the room. I felt like that a million times. I don't know about you, Leon. Have you gotten so upset that your words turn into actions? Give me a couple examples there. I'm sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, all the time. Let's be honest. We are talking about a topic here of which no matter how much research we've done on it, we are still guilty of the same. And we still make these mistakes on a daily basis. I mean, if you think about the worst example probably, and I hope that we don't lose a lot of listenership because of this, but the worst example is probably in a relationship. If you start thinking about words coming into action, it's such a bottomless pit. I mean, words first and foremost are extremely, extremely strong. And you cannot really retract words. Once you've spat them out, they actually genuinely start making an impact on the recipient or the person that's hearing this. And now if you start taking your words into action, that's actually the very next step of just really, really taking it a little bit too far. That's where you've now lost complete control of what started as a thought process. So as soon as you've started using your thoughts, getting them to words, and then moving that into actionable actions, it becomes a physical thing that your body is now doing. This is where you can't really turn the buck around anymore. So you really need to, again, I'm not saying that we are perfect and we do this on a daily basis. Absolutely not. We're still training. But we've noticed this as that once you've reached the point of action, it's really, really difficult to find out that you're doing the wrong thing, because now it's more of a physical action that you're doing. It's no longer a thought process. Your brain is not that much involved. Action is a lot more involuntary. It just happens. Your words and your brain just makes you do stuff. Take an example of a physical encounter between two gentlemen that had an argument for the evening, for example. They probably started thinking about the guy looking at his girlfriend the whole night across the bar. And then, he started talking to his mates about this guy that keeps staring at his girlfriend. And that's just a very, very toxic cycle that goes very fast, very quick. And it's so, so difficult to put a stop to it. And I mean, the best outcome there is to obviously just turn away and walk away from it, or remove yourself from the situation if you think there is really some sort of threat. But as soon as you get those words into actions, we all know what unfolds after that. And has that ever helped anyone? And you can pretty much, that's a very extreme example, but you can button that down to most examples in life. I mean, if you think about it, let's say, for example, you're in a workspace and someone has done something during the lunch break that irritated you. Or let's say, for example, someone decided to use some of the milk carton that didn't have your name on, but it's something that you brought to work. So that is something that you think about it. Okay, this is not right. This is not fair. You start maybe talking to your two best friends at work about it, and then they agree with you that it's not right. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do about it? And the next thing you think about, you're trying to find some way to do this person some sort of harm or something like that. And is that really what adult behavior should be? Is that really mature? Is that what you wanted from your day? This is the things that, as I mentioned, as soon as it becomes action, it's really, really difficult to turn the buck around. So I would pretty much just say, before we probably hop on to the next topic, is you need to be very, very conscious of your thoughts as they become stuff that you start speaking, and you usually speak it to your close circle. The close circle know you, they love you, they believe you, they understand you, so they're going to spur you on, they're going to be on your side, which is what you actually want in that situation, even though it's to your own detriment. And they're going to spur you on to put that word into action. So basically, to just come back to it, you need to really be cognizant of the things that you start speaking and who you speak them to, or who you pronounce these words to. Those people more than likely will help you to further your cause, whether it's getting more angry, whether it's getting more upset. They're going to help you get there because they're actually trying to support you. They see that you're angry, so they need to agree with you, because if they don't agree, you're going to think that, they don't think I'm correct, or my behavior is misbehaving or misinterpreted. So they're going to be behind you. They're going to follow that trend and get you more and more psyched up, which then turns into action. And that action is you choose. Is it going to be a positive action that's going to influence my day in a positive way, or that's going to make someone's life better? Are you going to put some positivity back in the world, or are you going to retract from your own day, someone else's day, and no one's going to be impressed with the outcome at all?
Yeah, I mean, and when we say actions, I mean, it's not necessarily always physical actions. I think a lot of the things that we do, it's not necessarily lashing out and hitting someone in the face with a fist or anything. But just to get back to the example that Leon gave earlier, like for instance, the relationship, right? Being in a relationship and thinking certain things. I mean, I've been in relationships where I thought that I'm just not good enough for this person. She's out of my league entirely. How can she accept me as a person? And those thoughts eventually turn into words, maybe not to the person but sometimes just mainly to yourself. You look in the mirror and you're like, ugh, who am I? How can this person accept me, right? I'm so fat, or I'm so unfit, or I don't look like these supermodels or these actors on TV, or the guy that she works with, or the girl that she works with, or that she hangs out with, or her best friend or his best friend, or whatever the case is, right? So those turn into words in a certain sense as well, that you start discussing this with the partner, and that could very, very quickly turn into actions as well, or inactions actions in some cases as well. So, because if you feel really bad about yourself, you feel that you're not really worthy of being in a situation like that, that could absolutely impact you negatively in the actions that you take, because then you're not going to go to gym, you're not going to go and work out, because you already think and you already feel that you are trash or you just feel that what's the point behind it all, because that's what my partner thinks or what my other half thinks, right? All right, so moving on to the next section here, or the next portion of the quote that we have here. Actions turn into habits, right? So a very, very good example of that is if we had to look at that, right? Me feeling really bad, not going to gym, or at least skipping one day of gym because I feel so bad about myself, because I looked in the mirror and I thought to myself, I'm not worthy of this relationship, for instance, right? That's gonna very quickly become a habit. Whether you like it or not, if you take action enough, it's going to become a habit. And that goes for good or bad. But really in this situation here, if I skip gym one day because I feel really bad, because I think that my partner thinks that I'm not worthy of being there and she's out of my league, whatever the case is, I'm not going to go to the gym for a couple of consecutive days, and that's going to become a habit. That's going to be something that I can't that's going to be a lot harder to change in the future as well. So again, that thought process being the spark of it all. And then leading into actions, leading into habits as well. The same thing goes, for example, in terms of sleeping patterns, for instance, right? Leon, you're a person, you don't like to go to bed early. I'm the complete opposite of that. That's my habit. It's my action. It was maybe a once-off thing, maybe 2 days, 3 days in a row. I decided this week I'm going to go to bed early. And it just became a habit. And I like going to bed early. If I go to bed later on, like now, we're busy recording this podcast late at night because we have day jobs. I'm gonna be tired tomorrow. I'm definitely gonna be tired tomorrow. But Leon, you're a person. You have certain sleeping habits. I'm not gonna comment whether they're good or bad. You can comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your sleeping patterns, Leon.
Absolutely. So you're quite right. I mean, when it comes to good or bad habits forming from action, my bad habits of sleeping late has actually come for years and years. I mean, I really can't remember a day in my life that I've gone to bed earlier than midnight, and it's not a good habit. And I know it. My brain tells me it's not. I've read books about it. I've read the 5 a.m. Club. I've read so many information that tells me, Leon, you're probably missing out on some potential that you have just because of bad habit around sleeping habits. And I mean, this is something that I think a lot of people encounter, and maybe not just in sleeping patterns, but in spending, in gossip, in a poisonous attitude at work, and so on and so forth. I mean, we're focusing a lot around bad things in this podcast because we're obviously trying to prevent that from happening to everyone, and to kind of give you the telltale signs. But to give a little bit of explanation behind my sleeping patterns, for me it's a thing of, I think when I'm asleep I'm missing out on life, and I know that it's ridiculous. It's a weird mindset that I've had. And again, this started as thoughts. If we come back to the beginning of the podcast, it started as a thought that brewed in my mind that, if I can get 20 hours out of a day of light time, of open eye time, then I utilize my time to its full extent. My silly little young logical-minded brain, analytical brain, told me that that's the most effective way to make use of your time in a day. So obviously that thought became action. That thought became words. So I started speaking to all my mates. I told them, you know what? You guys sleep 8 hours a night. I get half of that. I feel just as good as you, even though I know that's probably a complete blatant lie. That's absolutely impossible. I mean, normal biology will tell you that's impossible. But I mean, I felt good enough to still tell them this. And once I've actually spoken that to myself, what would seem like gospel, I put that into action, and that action became a habit. Absolutely. I mean, I'm 35 years old now, and I still have this bad habit. So I really need to work on it. It's an example, and again, I'm sharing this with you guys just to, show you guys that this show is very much about sharing information and sharing life experiences that we have ourselves. And I still battle with this. I mean, like Manu just said, we're recording this after hours. It's about 10:30 now, and PM. I wish it was in the morning, because then we'd probably be a lot more awake. But it's 10:30, and we're doing this because obviously this is a project that we're working on, and it's a passion project. So I wouldn't put everything into the same category and into the same box. When we say a bad habit is sleeping patterns, obviously if something requires you to be awake for a longer period of time, that obviously falls outside the frame of what's been said. But there's a lot of other examples. Manu, maybe you can think of a few others.
Absolutely. No, I actually really want to touch on that. Just sleeping patterns, as Leon said, it shouldn't be boxed in as saying sleeping patterns are good or bad. It's what works for you, right? For me personally, I've discovered that having good sleeping patterns, and good meaning they fit into my check boxes of making sure that I get home early, I get my stuff done, I go to the gym or whatever it is that I need to do for that day, and by 10 p.m. I should be in bed asleep already. All right, that's my sleeping pattern. That's something that works for me, and the only reason I classify it as a very good one, or as a good habit, is in the sense that I know that if I get to bed by 10, the next morning I feel fresh. It's the only way that I'll wake up the next morning, get my exercise in, get my meditation, get my reading time in. We'll talk about a little bit morning rituals as well, coming up. But really, that could be classified as a good or a bad thing as well. So think about that in the sense of those actions can become habits. Another one, just to quickly touch on that before we move on, just getting back to the work experience as well that we mentioned earlier on. If we take that exact same example, and I really feel that that's resonating with me, because I feel that I've had enough girlfriends, not girlfriends dating girlfriends, but chick friends that have gone through this, right? Where they just come to me and they say, I just had an absolute trash day at work today because of something that someone said. So if we have to go back to that example of someone telling you that you look pale today. Maybe it's because you didn't put on makeup, or maybe you did put on makeup, but you just didn't have enough time, to I don't know, do the contouring thing or whatever chicks do, right, with makeup, right? And that eventually turned into words, turned into actions, but can turn into a habit as well. So it can turn into an action in the sense that, why should I care about what I look like at work if this person's just going to come and tell me that I look like this today or I look like that today, right? So I'm just going to today not even care, not even put on makeup, because I am trash, because I feel like trash, because that's what they keep telling me, right? And that's going to become a habit as well of you saying that I'm not going to put in any effort. And in actual fact, it's going to show in your work life as well as your personal life, or your personal connection with everyone else, because you're not going to feel good about yourself, and it will become a habit in that sense as well. So in the next one here, habits become character. Now, what is character first and foremost? In essence, I think that you can build really good character, you can build really bad character, and it's very important. I think it's one of the most important things that I've been brought up to focus on, is the fact that you should have absolute integrity, or you should have absolute discipline in your life, right? And that should form part of your character. But really understanding and dissecting that is, how do I build that? Where do I start? If I want to be a certain way, where exactly can I start with building my integrity, right? If I'm a person that if I like to just make up things, or I've dealt with a couple of people that are pathological liars about the simplest things, like it's something that wouldn't even change my life or their lives. They would lie about things like that, and that just forms part of their character, because maybe it just became a habit along the way as well. So same thing goes for that. Watch out for those thoughts once again, because very quickly those thoughts can turn into character. Leon, character. What are some of the character or characteristics that your parents brought you up with, that they focused, or basically, I know that we still grew up in an age or a day and age where it was not illegal to hit your kids or spank them. So what were some of the critical, most crucial characteristics that your parents basically slapped into you?
Yeah, actually, you're quite right, Mani. We come from an era where, I think we're one of the last generations that actually still respects, parents. We still respect elderly, etc. And that's all part of character. And that, that was literally, to put it into frank South African, that was bliksemed into me. I mean, I would, for example, around a table, have a little bit of attitude, and the next thing I know, my mom's throwing me with her, stiletto, and I would be, I would be brought up in such a way that character exudes from that type of action. Now, obviously, times have changed, and punishment in that sense isn't the same anymore. Now you have to actually take kids' phones away, as a form of punishment. That's obviously how life has changed. But I mean, just to come down to the actual, topic and the matter of interest here, character is something that you build over years and years and years of habits. So you have to form habits. Habits, as we've now mentioned, come from actions that were initially from words and thoughts. So, and a lot of that is influenced by other people. So your surroundings, the people that you work with, the people that you spend your time after hours with, your family, your friends, your loved ones, those are all people that influence your thought patterns, the words that come out of your mouth, the actions that you make, the habits that you then eventually build. And character then becomes the second step. So as soon as you've done habits for a very long time, let's take, for example, the very good morning routine, guys. All right, which I'm not a part of that yet, but I'm really, really working on that, because I do see that as a very fundamental building block towards success. But if you take the early risers, for example, they start their mornings with a combination of whatever works for them. It's either doing a gratuity list of saying, they're grateful for these 10 things every morning. They do that. They write it down on pen and paper. Then they'll start by reading a little bit of material or books or articles or newspapers. They'll do some meditation. They might spend some time with their choice of faith. And by doing that, they actually create such a strong character. The character will exude, examples of patience. They might be a lot more patient because they understand the discipline and the patience that it takes to train your mind into getting up early enough, waking up every day with that very intentional mindset of doing that ritual every morning that kind of kickstarts their day. And from that, they come across more inspirational. They might have more things that they can share with people, more life experience, a little bit more depth, maybe some more wisdom. You might find that these guys can be in their 30s and have more wisdom than, all toppies, because they just spend a lot more time with literature, with information, with themselves, with their thoughts, training their minds, being a little bit more conscious of their surroundings and spending that quiet time to actually just be. And we don't get that time in our life. We don't get that in city life. We don't get that in the world that exists today. And that, unfortunately, is part of what builds character. So a lot of us have some skewed character because as far as our upbringing, yes, we come from a generation that gave us a lot of discipline. We've got good morals. We've got good values, and that's unwavering. We are very lucky in that sense. But the next generation, we really need to mold them and try and find another way to build those actions and habits that's going to build their character, because it's going to either make them patient people or loving people or people that's easy to get along or people that's permanently frustrated. Maybe it can even cause depression or some anxiety in some people. And character is again something that's very, very difficult to unlearn. As hard as it is to learn, it's extremely difficult to unlearn after the fact. So it's really, again, it's managing these couple of disciplines that we spoke about in this podcast, from words, actions, habits that form character. It's from that point upwards that you start building more of a permanent state of mind and a permanent state of being. And character is pretty much the way that you reflect yourself onto others. So when other people see Leon or they see Marnie, they need to say that that's a person of discipline or very inspirational. That person is a person of faith, or he's a person of patience, or as a mother or a spouse, that's a person that's very he's a good companion, he's there for me, he sticks his neck out for me. So those are things that one really wants to build, and you want to build it into a positive sense. You can build this the wrong way around. You could be someone that was brought up maybe in a more volatile environment. So those words became volatile actions. Those actions became habits of being in trouble all the time. And then that character builds of becoming a very violent person that could lead to prison or juvenile activity or whatever the case might be. And then that's your character. You kind of stuck with it. It's like a tattoo, it's really difficult to unlearn character.
Yeah, and you're so right actually when you mention that, Leon, because another good example from my life, I think, was when one of the main things that my dad always told me was respect. Be respectful. Don't interrupt anyone when they're talking or when they're in the middle of a conversation. And that's something that has that I've realized not a lot of people actually have. It's such a basic thing for me, but a lot of people have probably just not come across that in their own lives as well. So that was something, again, that my dad had to discipline into me, bliksem into me, as you mentioned earlier on. It's something that if you come into a conversation, if he's busy talking and you come with dad, he will slap you, definitely, and it will only happen once or twice, and then that will become a habit. You will understand, listen, this is not what you do, and that will turn into character eventually. And even now, you will hardly ever find me interrupting someone. I would probably stand in the middle of a conversation between two people that are constantly bouncing ideas off of one another, or you're talking about us or discussing a certain topic. And if there was something absolutely life-threatening, I probably will not even intervene in that conversation, because that is just a habit and that has become my character, right? So that's the type of character development that we're talking about, and how that can stem from just habits. And as Leon mentioned, it's not always just good. I mean, respectfulness, I feel, is absolutely a good part of or having that as part of your character. But at the end of the day, this could be bad, as Leon mentioned. If you've been in a lot of abusive relationship, physical abusive, or mentally abusive, or whatever the case is, or verbally abusive relationships, and that forms part of your daily habits of just looking down on yourself and all that, right? That's going to form part of your character. You're not going to be very confident when approaching anyone. You're not going to be very confident having your open discussions with people and being vulnerable in front of people, because it's just formed part of your character as well. So it's absolutely, I think, important to always just be mindful of this. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life at all. It's really just saying that be mindful of it, at least, even if you feel that it doesn't maybe resonate with you specifically at this point of your life, which I highly doubt. I mean, it was an absolute profound message for me even when I read it. But at the end of the day, your character can very quickly turn into your destiny. Leon, I think this is where we hit the gold, right? Is we all started off with this quote from what's your thoughts, all the way through to why are we watching our thoughts? Because before you know it, it's turned into a habit, or it's turned into your character, and before you know it, your character will define who you are tomorrow, who you are in a year's time, who you are in 2 years' time, whether it's good or bad, right? Now, we mentioned a lot of really bad stuff here and gave some really good examples in terms of, you know, bad habits and bad thoughts and bad actions and bad character and all that, right? And we'll talk about the good side of things in a couple of minutes. But really, watch out for those things, because before you find yourself, you'll see that those thoughts that you had just going to work and feeling really bad about yourself because it just really wasn't a good day, and then someone else told you that you look really crappy today. What is up with you? You've been looking like that for the past week, and you start believing that, all right? And how that turned into your actions, into your habits, into your character. And now, who are you as a person? If you take that in a year's time, do you really feel that you're going to be happy waking up every single morning, going to that same job with those same people? Probably not. I can almost guarantee you that. So be very mindful of your character, because that can very quickly and easily form part of your destiny. I don't know. What do you think, Leon?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is really the pay dirt of the whole show, right? I mean, this is what you came for. So everything we spoke about now is sort of reversible. Some of it harder than the others. And most of the topics so far, words, action, habits, and character, that's something that you experience in the present. Destiny is all about the future. I mean, do you want to have a future, and where do you see yourself? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to have children? Do you want to be lucrative? Do you want to be successful? What do you define as successful? Is that having a ton of money in the bank, or is that having a nice life with a good family? You know, and all of these things are determined by your character. At the end of the day, the character will determine which type of person. Let's say, for example, just to focus a little bit more on the positive here, I think we're a little bit skewed towards the negative, but just to focus on the positive, let's say, for example, you've got a strong character of guardianship, or, you know, you're a very strong, dependable person. This means that you will probably meet, if you're a guy, obviously I'm talking from a guy's perspective, you'll probably meet a lady that needs that kind of character in someone, and you'll probably be exactly what she needs, which means you'll be able to love that person, and she'll love you back uncontrollably, and to a certain extent that she doesn't understand even the love. It's just there, and she can't really put her finger on it. And that's going to build your destiny, because it means that at the end of the day, you're a dependable person. That's not just going to be for the sake of having a wife and kids. That's definitely a huge part of it, because that is, in my opinion, a very healthy destiny for most people. I mean, I'm not, let's say, excluding the part of our listeners that do not see that as their futures, but in general, generalizing, that would be a destiny that a lot of people find favorable. And I mean, the same character that you've built, the dependability and the guardianship, that will serve you well almost everywhere in your life. I mean, you'll be a very dependable person at work. They'll know that this is the guy that you come to for anything. This is the one person that's going to be after work, before work, earliest at the job. This is the one person when, the building is on fire and the business is going down. He's the last person to climb off the ship, So, and that's a character that was obviously built through years and years of habit. And at the end of the day, you want your character to build towards a destiny that's going to give you a lifetime of good fulfillment and success and happiness and joy. I mean, I prefer the word joy, because joy is permanent happiness. Happiness is something you feel right now, and joy is the permanent version of that. So if you build a positive character, let's say, for example, 70% positive, 30% negative, because obviously I'm not idealistic and I don't think that there's 100% positive people. But if you can, tip the scales towards a very positive and strong character, strong in the sense of morals, values, dependability, patience, companionship, faith, and just being there for people and always trying to do good and put good things into the world, you're absolutely going to attract that, and that's going to be your destiny. You're going to have a positive life with good people around you. You're going to appeal to companies that want positive, strong, mindful people that's going to build the business, which means you'll inevitably financially strong as well. You're going to raise really good children with the same ethics, the same values, the same morals, the same character that you're going to build in them. You're going to put the same sort of habits into place that's going to mold them into the person that you want it to be. So at the end of the day, destiny is where it's at. That's where you want to end up. We're on this journey in my age now, where I'm still on this journey of exactly understanding my destiny. I'm maybe halfway there, and I'm happy with some and unhappy with others. But at the end of the day, I know that it's all about the character. I need to work on my character, and I need to become even better and stronger in that character to make sure that I solidify a strong destiny.
Yeah, Leon, I think, wow, you've mentioned or touched on a couple of points there that have just, taken me back to when I was younger as well. And it's actually so funny because I realized this at such an early age already, but I just didn't actually, I wasn't mindful of it. I didn't realize that I realized it, right? I mean, you touched on the topic of, the character that you build and the destiny that you will, or your destiny will automatically translate into the spouse that you end up with or the person that you end up with as well. And in my experience specifically, that was something that I was always focused on quite a lot. Even in my younger years, I was really, just stepping back and asking myself, who do I want to be with? What is my ideal girlfriend at the time? And I mean, I'm talking while I was in high school, right? Who's the ideal girlfriend? What kind of character does she have? What kind of personality does she have? And what are her strengths? In that sense. And that's something that I started building on in myself, because I knew that as soon as I build that character in myself, I will attract that same character, or I will start looking for that same character. But I just thought to myself that if I'm a really shitty person and I don't really take care of myself, or I've got shitty values or whatever the case is, that's probably the type of person that's going to be attracted to me as well. And do I want to have that person in my life or end up with that type of person? Not a specific person in mind, but just that type of person, right? And that was for me the most crucial aspect at a very young age already. I think maybe it was the way I was brought up. Maybe it was my parents doing, drilling that into my mindset somehow, or maybe subconsciously I picked up on it somewhere. But it was something that I was so crucially focused on for so long, and even to this day, it was building a very strong character in the exact same values and principles that I would want in my life partner or in my spouse. So that's the one thing. And yeah, Leon, absolutely, you did say that. We have been focusing on quite a lot of negativity in here, right? So I actually have it planned like that, and I know we coordinated it to some sort of extent, but the reason for that is because I'm going to flip the script here, right? So let's take, for instance, right? This entire process that we've just gone through is entirely reversible, right? And what I mean by reversible is I mean that if you think about setting goals, right? Just use that as an example. You think about setting a goal. The best way to set a goal in life, in your finances, or in anything that you ever partake into, right? The best way of setting a goal is knowing where you're going, right? Knowing what the end goal is, right? Knowing and understanding what that 5-year goal is, or the 3-year goal is, or the 10-year plan is, right? Knowing where you want to be is the very first step before you can actually start planning it, right? And they always say that start with the end in mind, right? With anything, and if and this is also something that I've come across, I think, in a course that I took as well on increasing my ability to present presentations and stuff, because that's what I do at work. But anyways, right, so it's a course that I took, and they said something that was pretty amazing and that I could translate into my own life as well. Always start with the end in mind. What is the message that you want to get across, and work back from that, right? But translating that into the message that we have here today, and when you start with destiny and you work your way back, right? What is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you want to achieve, right? And how can you start working towards that? Well, first decide on the destiny, and then start with your thoughts, and then work your way all the way back up to character, and that will then translate into destiny. It's as simple as that. I'm a big fan of formulas. I love 1 + 1 = 2 basic stuff, and I'm not saying I'm a scientist or whatever, but at the end of the day, I believe in practical life formulas. I believe that if you do X and you do Y, you will end up with Z. And this is a very, very simple formula, right? If you want to achieve something in your destiny, if you want to achieve something in your future, then it's simply just know what it is, go back and start working through thoughts. So I want to run through this entire process real quick once again, but now looking at it from a positive mindset, right? Looking at it from a positive point of view. We've been focusing a lot on negativity, and that's always good because we're always looking at giving advice to, help improve yourself and stuff. But the reason I wanted to work through all the negativity is to end up with the positivity, right? Well, so this absolutely had Leon.
Sorry, man. I was saying, let's be honest. I mean, we're not starting a podcast to teach you all the good things. If you're doing it right, you wouldn't be listening to the show. And I mean, it's really profound because I just thought about the same thing. You can really reverse engineer this formula. You can work it back. You start from, what do you want your destiny to be? Where do you see yourself when you're all grown up? Do you see yourself with kids and grandkids and they're all really good and they go to church? Do you see yourself single and on a beach and flying and traveling the world? Both of those are good to two different people. Or do you see yourself miserable and you couldn't figure it out? So you can really start from the destiny side and just work back for that destiny. What type of character do I need? To get that character, what habits do I need? And from that habits, what actions and words do I need to think about in order to get to that? But sorry, Manu, you were saying, I just thought that was interesting because I also wanted to flip the script, but you bumped me one there.
No, I absolutely love it. No, you've got, yes, exactly. And that's why I think when I read this, my mind just blew and I was like, wait, what? And I had to read it like 5 times, and I actually went and I wrote it down on my notepad, and I actually started messaging my friends. I was like, yo guys, check this out. How insane is this? And to some of them, they were like, oh yeah. To the others, they were just like, oh yeah, philosophical monos here again. But the point, exactly. Look, but I'm a very firm believer in this formula. I mean, and I'm a very firm believer in at least being mindful of it, even if you feel like you're not ready to start applying this crazy stuff to your life or whatever the case is. It's really just as simple as not even memorizing the entire script, but just being mindful of the idea behind it, right? So even if we had to go back way to the beginning, right, and we had a look at what is the summarized version of today's topic, right? It's as simple as input equals output. And I'm going to say that again. Input equals output, right? Whatever you put into your mind, whatever you feed into your mind, whether it's like the people that you hang out with, there's another saying, you are a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? Watch out for that inner circle. Watch out for the thoughts that they plant in your mind, right? Whether it is for you to, if you're thinking, I want to start a business, I want to follow my dreams, I want to quit my job, I don't want to say, yeah, go jump, do it, because who am I? I mean, I still haven't even done that, right? But just if you start talking to other people about this, or your inner circle, and they start planting doubts in your mind and telling you, yeah, but this economy and and in this country, or and in Corona times or COVID times and in lockdown and everything, those thoughts are going to stick with you and they're going to start turning bad. But let's not focus on the bad. Let's start focusing on the good real quick. If we run through this, thoughts turning into words, some really, really positive things that you can do with that as well to build positive habits or end up with a great or stronger character and a better destiny. I think some very, very important points to mention here. First and foremost, thinking about how do you consume information? What are your data sources on a daily basis, right? For me, it would be scrolling through Facebook or social media. I mean, I can't get away from it. I'm still trying my best, right? The one thing that I did try and do now is to try and fill my Facebook as much as possible with positivity, as opposed to all the negativity. So yes, it's always good to stay up to date with the gossip and the politics and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I started following a lot of positive people, or I started following inspirational content or inspirational pages and all that, just to make sure that the thoughts that I take in on a daily basis would be positive. It's because then I would speak positive words. Exhibit A, we're here, we're speaking positivity. And then that will translate into actions, habits, character, and so forth, right? But really just looking at it from a positive point of view. Think about how you can consume that information and how you can transform it from negativity into positivity. And automatically, I think your life will start following the direction that you wanted to follow as well.
Yeah, I think in closing statement, this first episode, or let's say second episode after the pilot, this is really going to set the tone of this podcast from beginning till end. We're going to try and flesh out the actions, the habits, the characters, and what makes up good destiny in the upcoming episodes. And all of this is, due to the fact that, from the little experience that we've got on the subject matter, it's something that piqued our interest. It's something that we are very, very passionate about. It's something we read about, we live about, and we listen about on a daily basis. So, as young as we are, I mean, we're not the wizards of wisdom at all, but we'll be able to come and provide some insights and information from a lot of thought leaders in the field that's going to make the topic a little bit more approachable, or maybe put it in a perspective that most people can understand. Because at the end of the day, as Marnie mentioned as well, I mean, you pretty much are the sum of the 5 people that you spend your time with, most of your time with. And at the end of the day, that could be, that's 100% controllable by you. And, throughout this podcast, we are going to go into great depth on this subject and, discussing various different types of topics on how to improve on these specific areas and how to actually build towards a better destiny. And I mean, each person's destiny is different. I mean, we're not here to tell you what the best destiny is. We just know that there's, sad people and happy people, and we want to lean towards the happiness, getting people that are joyful and content with their lives. And, this is the podcast to listen in on for some tips, and coming from, real people with normal jobs, that just decided, this is maybe a podcast that's missing from the rest of the list.
Absolutely. And just a couple of last words from my side as well. I think I want to leave you with this thought, and I can't remember how, when, and where I came up with it, or if I read it somewhere, but it simply goes like this: you are not what you think you are, but what you think you are. I'm going to actually just say that again because it might sound very confusing to a lot of you. You are not what you think you are, but what you think you are, right? And a good example of that is, again, input equals output, right? And the main thing is, I remember when I was a kid, we moved around quite a lot. So we'll probably get into the crazy stories and everything. But I grew up with a brother, older brother, and we joined a brand new school when we moved around. And yes, we got bullied like crazy. And I'm talking like I was still a kid. I mean, I'm talking grade 3 around there. And my brother is not much older than me, maybe a year and a half, 2 years older than me, and we got pushed around a lot because we're new kids in the school, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, they did have some form of extracurricular activities at the school. One of them was joining a karate class. So my mom signed us up for that. That was extremely fun for the little time that we spent actually in that area, in that school. But that actually made us, or sparked an interest into watching a lot of karate movies and everything, and Karate Kid and all these kung fu movies and everything as well. And the one day, I will never ever forget this day, the bullies came as well, and they never came in like one or two. They came in masses of groups, right? So I'm talking like 5 or 6 or 7 kids just coming to push us around the whole time because we're the new kids in the school, and they want to, I don't know, you know how kids are, right? And I will never ever forget it. And I told my brother, or he told me, I can't remember, but it went something like, just pretend we're in that kung fu movie we watched last night. Just pretend that we're in that kung fu movie. We can do karate. We can do kung fu, right? It sounds like such a silly example, but I promise you that day, we managed to beat up all 7 or all 8 of those kids. And I promise you, we just started karate. We didn't learn anything. If you've ever taken a karate class, you know that it's pretty much just doing a bunch of stances and practicing this stuff. You never ever do hand or combat, like physical combat or anything in the first month or 2. But the point is that just that thought process behind it was so powerful that we felt we were so much stronger, so much more advanced in fighting with these kids than anything else. Another good example, come to think of it as well, is when I was actually a little bit younger, I started going to the gym, started training quite heavily. And one of the main things that I basically programmed into my mind was, when I was in the gym and I was doing cardio, or I was doing crunches, or I was doing any sort of exercise, I would picture myself as a soldier, in the military. I would picture myself as someone, actually a drill sergeant, standing there telling me, come on, you can do it, come on. And I was basically, there was no giving up. And I promise you, after a couple of months of having that mindset applied to my life and into my exercise, I actually started seeing some crazy results. I was probably the strongest that I've ever been. I've never ever gone back to that again. I still try and sustain that entire idea and methodology behind it. But really, just coming back to my closing words here, you are not what you think you are, but what you think you are, meaning what you think you become, right? So input equals output. Guys, that is all that we have time for today. I really hope that this has been extremely informative, or at least has resonated with you to some extent. And please give us a shout. Leon, any closing words from your side?
Yeah, man, it's been a real pleasure. I mean, this is literally our semi-debut evening of doing this, so be easy on us. But if the material resonated, if anything stuck out, or you want to continue listening to the show, whatever, leave something in the comments, leave a like, share this with someone. It's going to get only better from here. I mean, for a first show, I don't think we did half bad. Well done, Marty. So yeah, we're going to see you on the next episode, and yeah, it will go even smoother, and it will only get better from here.
Absolutely. As Leon said, if you like the content, reach out to us. If you've got a story in mind of maybe how this methodology has made you think of a story that might have changed your life or changed your destiny, please share it with us. We'll love to hear from you. And excited for the second show. This has been a tremendous amount of fun, actually, Leon. I didn't know what to expect, but I love this. All right, cool. So we're actually going to see you in the next episode, guys. Thank you so much. Stay tuned and keep safe, and we'll chat again. Ciao.
Cheers.